Hello everyone, my name is Ziamaro and welcome to Battle Right Sage. It's patch day again and with it comes a new event, new skins, double XP and a host of balance changes. Oh yeah, and new mount sounds. I'll leave a link to the full patch notes in the description so you can have a look at the whole thing. First off, a bunch of abilities now ignore the global cooldown, meaning they can be cast a little faster after another ability. Those abilities include Forest Sanctuary, Thunderclap, Time Bender, Wrath of the Tiger and more. Check out the full patch notes if you want more details on that. So let's move on to the champion changes. First up we have Alicia. She has received a ton of buffs and quality of life changes. Her space now inflicts chill by default, and the Frost Nova battle right now insta-roots people. The damage on her flash freeze has been increased from 15 to 18, but the Snowstorm battle right damage has been reduced from 15 to 12. The max slow factor on her chill has been increased, and the freeze duration has been increased slightly. If Alicia wasn't an attractive range pick before, she probably will be now, so I expect to see a lot more of her this patch. Bako has received some small buffs, particularly to his battle rights. His War Shout now lasts for 3 seconds instead of just 2.5. Howling Axes now reduces the cooldown of Blood Axe by 1.5 seconds. Adrenaline Rush and Adrenaline Slam now deal 9 bonus damage instead of 8. And the recast time on Shield Bash has been reduced slightly, but the damage has been increased from 4 to 6. Croak has received a fairly significant nerf to his camouflage and a few battle right reworks. His camouflage now lasts 3 seconds instead of 3.5, plus hitting Blade Fury after Deceit has faded will no longer trigger stealth. His Venom Strike battle right has had its damage reduced from 10 to 8. His Frog Strike and Precision Leap battle right have both been removed. They've been replaced with 2 new battle rights, Slippery Skin and Time to Strike. Slippery Skin reduces damage Croak takes by 30% for 2.5 seconds after camouflage ends, and Time to Strike increases the haste factor and duration of stealth. It's also EX compatible. And finally, Frog Slice has been reworked to increase range by only 30% and it now deals 4 bonus damage. Overall, some slight survival buffs to Croak if you take the new battle rights, but otherwise it's a pretty significant nerf. Next up we have Destiny. Uh-oh, more nerfs for Destiny. Her space damage has been reduced from 16 to 14. Power Attachment has had its bonus damage reduced by 1 across the board. Blast Processing's damage and bonus range has been reduced. Globetrotter's movement speed has been reduced, Violent Revolution has had its damage reduced, and the big kicker, her ultimate now does reduced damage after each consecutive target or wall is hit. So the first hit does 40, then 32, then 24, then 16, and then 8. This is a pretty significant nerf, but it's supposed to reduce some of the lucky kills you get by just YOLOing into a tight space. If there's any solace to be found in this, her Plasma Infusion battle right now gives more shields, and Dispatch has increased range and radius, but I think most people will be focused more on the nerfs. Destiny had an incredibly overloaded kit at launch and it's taken a lot of work to get her into line. Let's hope this puts her in a more balanced but hopefully still viable position. Esmo has had a few battle right changes. His Disruption silence duration has been reduced slightly across the board. However, Collapse has had its damage bonus increased. Arcane Barrage has been reworked and renamed to Feedback. It no longer heals, but the damage per charge has been doubled. To compensate, the healing per charge on Spell Eater has been increased from 4 to 6. This change is quite consistent with Stunlock's balance strategy. They don't like you to get too much value from just one battle right pick. And finally, Grimoire of Death's pull factor has been reduced from 40% to 25%. Moving on to Jamong. He has had a bunch of nerfs to his Rain of Arrows. The impact delay on the base ability has been increased to 0.7 seconds. On top of that, Arrow Storm's radius increase has been reduced to 10%. However, Crippling Hail now increases the snare to 40%. Rejuvenating Shot has been reworked and renamed to Prey Drive. When you take this battle right, Steady Shot now heals you for 8 health and an additional 8 when consuming Seeker's Mark. Viper's haste factor has been increased from 50% to 60%. Disabling Trap now reduces damage done and healing received by 50%, so that's a slight buff. Trapper's second trap duration has been reduced from 5 seconds to only 3, and the lower end of Deadeye's damage bonus has been increased. Jamong has been a very strong pick for a while now, and I think Stunlock want to bring him a little more in line with the other ranged champions. Pestilus has had his Disperse battle right re-added and reworked, so if you take this battle right, when you release from an infested enemy, you inflict 20% snare and it pushes them in the opposite direction. Tyre has had a few battle right changes. Surprise Attack's movement speed factor has been reduced slightly, but she's been given 2 new battle rights. Throwing Technique, which increases X Strike's max range by 15%, and Turbulence, which increases the next Razor Boomerang's damage by 4 after hitting Wind Strike. Moving on to Thorn, his Burrow's stun duration has been cut in half. Impaling Root's delay has been increased from 0.2 seconds to 0.4 seconds. Regrowth's damage reduction has been reduced from 10% to 7%, but the max stacks has been increased from 2 to 3. He has received some buffs as well, however. Whiplash damage has been increased from 9 to 12, and Creeping Root's duration, damage, and healing have been increased. Varesh has received some more changes since last patch. Fervor's haste factor has been increased from 8 to 10%. Zeal's healing and snare duration have been increased. Return's recast duration has been increased. Fracture now also increases shatter damage by 2, and Lawbender's cooldown reduction has been increased from 1.5 to 2 seconds. And finally we have Zander. Zander felt a little lackluster on release, and Stunlock maintained that it's still a matter of people getting used to him. However, he has received a number of quality of life improvements and some buffs to his underused rights. Rabbit form now applies hearts to Zander. Phantasmagoria bonus has been increased from 1 second to 2 seconds. Poof's damage and stun duration have been increased. Transformation Sickness has had its snare factor increased. Lasting Form has been reworked to increase sheep duration by 0.3 seconds and then further increase it by 0.7 seconds if the target is inflicted with Arcane Catalyst. It also no longer consumes Arcane Catalyst. Showdown has had its shield value increased from 12 to 14, and Around the World has had its max cast range increased by 20%. Overall, it's been another patch with some very interesting changes, and it will be exciting to see how this shakes up the meta. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, then please feel free to subscribe for more Battlerite guides, news, and discussion. And don't forget to check out twitch.tv/BattleriteSage. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.